Welcome everyone to our webinar today called Fight Fraud, Recognize, Reject, and Report. We are pleased today to be joined by the Ontario Police Service, who is put this presentation together in collaboration with the Community Safety Services and the Serious Fraud Office. So I know that the issue around frauds and scams is an important issue for many people, and how to prevent it. We want to ensure that we protect your finances and make sure that you don't get scammed or swindled out of your money. So we hope that you'll have a very interactive discussion today to learn more tips of the different frauds that are happening. Before we begin, I would like to provide our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we gather on the traditional territory of a number of First Nations and acknowledge their stewardship of this land throughout the ages. We seek a new relationship with the original peoples of this land, one that is based in honor and deep respect. Just a few housekeeping items before we begin. As you can see, we have our ASL interpreters joining us today. If you would like to pin them on your own screen or make their images visually larger, you can pull the screen to the side or make the images bigger on your own screen, or change the speaker view to suit your own needs. All the participants will be muted during the webinar, and we will invite questions and answers at the end. We have a chat box as you've already been putting information in. Please feel free to make comments, anything that you'd like to add to the discussion today. If you have a specific question in regards to frauds and scams or to our speaker, please post that in the Q&A box, and now I will provide the questions to the speaker at the end of the presentation today. As you can see, we are recording today's session, and it will be posted on our website within the next couple of days for people to view after. It's under archived webinars. And the PowerPoint presentation will also be available for people to download. And finally, we do have a quick evaluation that we do ask people to respond to after the webinar. And you'll get a follow-up email just as a reminder, and thank you for attending the webinar with the link if you don't access it today. And just before I turn it over to our speaker and introduce him, I do just want to reiterate the respecting your privacy and confidentiality. This is a public forum and it will be recorded. So we do appreciate people coming forward and asking questions. But if you have a personal circumstance or issue that you'd like to address, please reach out to us directly by our email or by our website, and we'd be more than pleased to assist you. So if you can keep questions more of a general sense as opposed to maybe disclosing something in a private sense, then we can assist that way. So just as a reminder, because we do want to respect your confidentiality and then the conversations that we do have here today. For those who are joining us for the first time, Elder Abuse Prevention Ontario is a nonprofit organization, and our mission is really to make sure seniors are safe and free from abuse. And we work collaboratively with our partners across Ontario and beyond to ensure the needs of older adults are met. And we have three main priorities that we operate under because we implement Ontario's strategy to combat elder abuse. Funded through the Ministry of Seniors and Accessibility, we work towards public education and awareness. And as many of you are familiar with, June is Seniors Month, and June 15th is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. And we just celebrated that a couple of weeks ago. And there's lots of initiatives happening across Canada where people were really raising the education and knowledge level around this issue. We also do a lot of training to frontline staff, and we work with our community partners, as I said, to promote collaboration and improve the response services to older adults and families that are requiring some assistance. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Steven Guiho, who is the Auxiliary Inspector in the Provincial Auxiliary Program, who's responsible for conferences and special projects with the Ontario Provincial Police. The acting inspector has been with the OPP for over 17 years, working in a variety of positions, and he's currently responsible, as I mentioned, for the provincial auxiliary conferences and special projects, working with many officers across the province. Today, we're privileged to have him deliver this new presentation on fight fraud, which was developed in partnership with the OPP Community Safety Services, as well as the section of the Serious Fraud Office. So I am going to stop my screen and allow Steven to share his screen to provide the presentation today. Steven?
Thanks very much. I just want to make a quick audio check here. I saw a bunch of comments here saying that there was faint audio, so I just want to make sure everyone can hear me fine. Maybe a couple of people in the chat, if you can let me know.
Sounds fine my end.
Okay, perfect. One good one. All right, excellent. That's always off to a good start. I will share my screen here. This one. One moment. And I believe I'm sharing the wrong one here. There we go. Can everyone see just the plain slide now?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for having me today. Really, truly appreciate it. This is a really new program for us this year as auxiliary members with the OPP. The partnership has been tremendous with the Serious Fraud Office between obviously us, the Provincial Auxiliary Program, and Community Safety Services. We're super excited to be here today to deliver this. We're going to be sharing some information. I'm going to be sharing some information. We're used to doing this in twos, but I'm going to be sharing some information on really 4 types of fraud. There's so many out there. There's tons out there, but we try to focus on the ones that seem to be reported the most. What you'll hear at the end of this presentation is that the reporting statistics are very, very poor. A lot of people don't report this stuff. So in a lot of cases, we might be presenting on material that you think, geez, that's not one of the more popular ones. However, that's the ones that get reported, and that's the ones that we tend to report on. So I'm going to try to give you guys some ways to understand how those offenders are taking our money or trying to take our money, and provide some red flags, some tips, just some general all-around, hopefully education for everyone here on the conference call. You know, to help you get over or get past these people trying to commit frauds. So one of the things that we always say is fraud can happen to anyone. We have police officers that you know, it happens. These things happen. Sometimes you let your guard down for a split second. You never want to be ashamed. You don't have to be ashamed. You become a victim. It happens to everyone. The way out of that is by learning from it, and then, you know, sharing that education, sharing those mistakes you have made with others so that it doesn't happen to anybody else. It's a stressful occasion, whether it's a fraud of $25 or $2,500 to even $100,000, which we've been seeing unfortunately more and more of. Stress is stress, regardless of a small amount, a large amount. So what we encourage is obviously reach out for help. You always want to make sure that you're getting support you need. You want to make sure to, you know, report these things that we can't take measures if it's not being reported. Something you're going to see throughout this entire presentation, I'm going to repeat it multiple times because it's really important to think about it this way. It's a campaign that comes out of the UK, and they call it Stop, Challenge, and Protect. Very, very simple. It's the Take 5 campaign. So you stop, take a minute to think, take 5 minutes, a simple 5 minutes, and then think to yourself, you know, does this seem legitimate? This phone call that I didn't pay my taxes, or this person that needs money, but they don't want it in cash, they want it in gift cards, or they want it in another format that's just not something that you'd see every day. So you challenge that. reject, refuse, or ignore. And last step is protect yourself. So now that you've challenged it and you've realized something's not right, this does not make sense to me, you contact the authorities and report the fraud. One of the top ones, so number one on my list is the romance fraud. So how does that work? Quite simply, offenders use social media, dating sites, they create fake profiles. Often the pictures look fantastic. Someone's in excellent shape, someone's either a military person or a successful businessman. They have all kinds of money in the bank, or they look like they're very, very successful. So what do? They develop a relationship with a victim. Once they've gained your trust, they ask you to send money. So how do they do that? Well, they claim, they're in the military. I work overseas. That's why I'm a single person. I work so much. I have a very successful business. And that turns into, we've known each other for a couple of weeks, but my goodness, this is like in the movies, I love you. And they profess their love to you to gain your trust. So once they've gained your trust, they want to give you affection, they want your money, and they're relying on your emotions. You're thinking, wow, this is too good to be true. I'm on a dating site. I found someone. Unbelievable how much of a connection we have together, how much this relationship looks amazing between the two of us. And then the little red flags start, which I'll get into on the next slide. So they're sending you things. They send flowers to your house, little small tokens, things that, are not very expensive, but could potentially mean a lot. One, why are they doing that? Because they're trying to gain your trust. This is legitimate. I'm an actual person on the other end of this line on the dating site. I am someone who wants to be with you, and it goes on and on. What are the red flags we see right away? The profile is too good to be true. All of a sudden, this person professes their love quickly. They can't meet you in person because I'm traveling for work. I can't meet you in person because I forgot I have family visiting. I can't meet you in person this weekend. I'd love to come see you. I really want to come see you, but I can't because this, and the other thing. There's always an excuse. They live close by to you, but they're overseas right now. So I'd love to come see you on the weekend, but I'm in Europe. I'd love to do this, but I'm doing this. There's always an excuse. There's always a reason why they can't come see you. Very quickly in these interactions with offenders, you'll find they want to change their method of communication. So now it's, let's just text privately, one-to-one. They don't want to have chat logs on Facebook or chat logs on a dating site. They just want to have a private conversation. They want to get your phone number. That way there we have more of a personal relationship. The other part that comes up after that is don't tell anybody about this relationship because they're going to discourage you because this is really too good to be true. And I don't want your friends telling you that this is not for real. This is for real. That we're going to be together. We're going to start a relationship. We're going to be happy. It's going to be like a movie. It's happily ever after. So the tips we have are obviously number one. You hear that all the time. Never send any photos of yourself, whether regular photos, intimate photos, anything. Privacy is privacy, right? Unfortunately, in today's day and age, you don't know what you're dealing with on the internet. So it's definitely not recommended. You're obviously going to ask specific questions. So you're going to ask, you can ask the same questions today. You can ask the same questions tomorrow. Does the story change? You'll often see that a lot of times an offender can't remember the story they told you yesterday or a week ago as you're having these little, nonchalant conversations back and forth and you're trying to get to know each other. All of a sudden you're going to see an inconsistency. Something's just not going to add up. Well, I thought you said you were in this city when now you're in this city. And the person will, well, yeah, that's what I meant. Like we're here. You make plans and they cancel every time. There's always something when it's about meeting in person that it's canceled. One of the tips we have, is the whole sending money thing. as bizarre as this sounds, you may unknowingly be participating in money laundering, which in itself is a criminal offense. So you could be receiving, sending, essentially laundering money without even knowing it. There's all kinds of tools out there to do what they call reverse image searches, but offenders are getting more and more advanced technology, so those things are working less and less, but there are options out there for you. One of the next frauds we have on our list, we call it the emergency fraud. This you've heard of, a very, very popular one. It's also known as a grandparent scam, is another way they call it. So the offender calls pretending to be a loved one in an emergency situation, and or emails you. A lot of times it's by email. I'm stuck in this country. I lost my passport. They need money to get me a new one. Can you please send me money? But what they're not asking for is money. They're asking for gift cards. So you're sending them Amazon gift cards or Google Play or Apple or whatever the case may be, gift cards to a foreign country for them to reissue a passport, or you'll be arrested. Oftentimes, these offenders are saying they're the police there in this foreign country, or they're a lawyer representing your loved ones. They need money. That in itself is a huge red flag. Payments by gift card, definitely not something that's common. I think we're all aware that payments nowadays universally is cash is number one versus anything. That's always a guarantee, obviously excluding counterfeit, but that's a completely different issue on its own. But the purpose of these scams are to create a sense of urgency. You need to do this now or I'm going to jail. You have 10 minutes. And these scams try to rush you. Like, I'm going to jail. They hang up, the next person calls you. This is the police in country XYZ. If you don't send this money, your loved one's going to jail because they don't have a passport, therefore they're illegally here, etc. And the fraud goes on and on and on. So they're asking you, can you send money? Can you do this? Can you do that? Again, the red flags, like I said, they're asking for gift cards, money transfers, Bitcoin. The pressure is there. They want to make you feel rushed. And then the big tip at the end, keep it a secret. Don't tell anybody. That in itself, if you had a loved one that was trapped in a foreign country, why would you not want to share that with your family members so that anyone that can help can help? So they want you to keep it as a secret. Huge red flag. Tips for that. Obviously, it comes down to that whole take 5 thing at the beginning. Slow things down and verify the story. So you need to slow things down. So that's that whole wait, take 5, and then react after that. You can go ahead and ask the questions only your loved one would know. So if this is indeed my grandson, what did I buy you for your birthday this year? If the person ignores that and says, I don't have time to answer those questions, I just need the money. You ask them again, well, could you tell me? I just need to know this for sure. I need to make sure it's you. If the person's continuously trying to derail that or try to go off track of that information, that in itself should be a really big tip that this is not the person you're thinking it is. Resist sharing your identifying details. So do not give them information and saying, what do you mean you're not here in this city? Why are you in this country? Why are you not back here and I'll use Toronto as an example. Why are you not here in Toronto with us? So you're giving them more information than they possibly don't have. Again, the whole take 5. So speak to someone at the end is confirm the whereabouts of this family member or friend. So I'll call you back in 5 or call me back in 5 minutes. I'm going to find out if you're actually gone there. And you make that phone call to your family member and find out that person's not even traveling whatsoever. They're definitely at home, no problems, no issues. So it's the whole challenge piece that really, again, there's never a sense of urgency, right? So you challenge it, you slow things down, and then all of a sudden the fraud kind of materializes itself and you start to realize right away, there's just something that's not right about this. And quite clearly, you never provide your personal or financial information over the phone, ever. Our more than likely favorite fraud of this time, well, not this time of year, but just past, is the CRA fraud. So what do we get here? We get an offender calling to be a CRA employee. Most times that's that robotic voice that you hear that does not sound like a human voice on the phone, saying you have an unpaid balance, you owe back taxes, your social insurance number's been compromised, and they're going to arrest you. The number one tip I can provide here is that if you're going to be arrested by the police, we will not give you advance notification that we're coming to your house to arrest you. That will never happen. If the police are coming to arrest you, it's most likely going to be a surprise for you. So that's never, ever, ever advertised. When you do connect with someone on the line, if it is a live person, which occurs at times, it's they need to verify your identity. So can you give me your driver's license number? Can I get your social insurance number, a credit card number, bank account, whatever the case may be. That's where they start gathering more data on you. So the way these things work is if you give them the number and then realize, something just doesn't seem right with this. They've gathered that piece of information, they will store that, and they'll call you back in a week or two with another scam altogether, but now they've got that one extra piece from you that they didn't have previously. They always request, like I say, your personal information, and they threaten to arrest you if you don't act immediately. The CRA will never ever ask for payment on the spot. Even in cases where it is legitimate CRA business and you do owe money or back taxes, there's always a payment plan, there's an agreement, there's something that's done there that is never instantaneously, you must go to your bank right this minute and pay us. Some of the red flags: aggressive and threatening language. You pay now or you're being arrested. We're going to send, the police are coming to your house. You're going to be deported. Those things just don't happen with the CRA ever. And for the police for that matter either. Again, like I say, if the police are coming to your house to speak to you, they're not giving you advance notice unless it's something that requires advance notice, like an appointment or something that you need to check that you're home. The pressure that they want, CRA wants their payments in prepaid gift cards or Bitcoin or any kind of prepaid format. Again, when you pay your taxes, it's usually done through your bank. It's usually done through your bank by check. There's no really other ways. They don't accept payment in any other fashion. They definitely don't accept gift cards. The CRA wouldn't be getting paid in gift cards. Our big tips for the CRA robot hotline or the whatever hotline is usually, your card has been compromised, press 1 to speak to an agent now, or you threaten to be arrested, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously never press that 1 because then it connects you with someone. Again, the CRA never sends you links. They don't ask for your personal and financial information via link. They don't ask you to punch it in. They do have secure portals out there, and there's secure portals like anything else, but they don't send you an email where you just click and don't have to log in and automatically input your information. They don't usually send unsolicited communications for you to just click a link and enter personal information. That doesn't happen. So what is the solution here with the CRA? I'll call you back. You look up their 1-800 number, you call them, they will immediately tell you if there's something on your file that they need to speak to you about. So you contact legitimate CRA contact information. You'll find that on your personal documents. You get them every year or multiple times a year, depending on how many dealings you have with the CRA. But that's your number one way of dealing with that. Our next top fraud is what they call the bank investigator fraud. Another popular one. So the offenders call and impersonate a bank official. The issue here is they're asking you to help them with an investigation because there's an employee at the branch stealing money. So very similar to police departments, the police will never ask you to become a detective for a day to help solve crimes, to help investigations. It's just not going to happen. So what they're asking you to do is withdraw money from your account, bring it to someone, deliver the cash to them, and then once we arrest the bank employee for giving you that money, then we'll refund your money. I mean, that in itself is quite an interesting story in itself. Again, bank investigators do not ask you to how can I say, conduct a sting operation with them or participate in the investigation. It just doesn't happen. The red flag's there. They want assistance with an internal investigation. They often call first thing in the morning when you're waking up, you're getting out of bed, you're kind of still a little bit groggy, foggy, you haven't had your coffee, and they're calling you saying there's a problem with your account, we need your help. Can you help us? We need it now. In some cases, they want remote access to your device. So your phone, your computer, they want you to log into your bank so they can show you. Never do that. And obviously for secrecy, you don't discuss this with your financial institution because we don't want to tip off the bad guy at the bank that we're conducting an investigation on them, right? And don't tell your family members because this is a confidential investigation. We don't want you to talk about this to anybody. The only tips we have here, obviously, you never give remote access to your device to callers who've called you. And you never provide personal information over the phone if you didn't initiate that call. If you have concerns and you're unsure, you hang up. That's your number one defense, is hanging up that phone, and you call back your bank. There's a number on the back of your bank card or your Visa or MasterCard, whatever credit card you have, and you call them and you confirm the information. If there is something, they will let you know. So again, it comes back to that whole slow down. Think to yourself, could I be talking to an offender? And again, if you're not sure, that's why we say consult someone, ask your family members, call the police, call someone you trust, call your bank, lean on the resources you have available to you to make sure that you're making the right decision. Another trick that is quite popular is spoofing. Very, very easy to do for offenders, very easy to do for actually anyone. There are apps out there that allow you to do these kind of things. Essentially, it manipulates your call display. You could take your phone, have it call someone and display the number of your choice. So if I was aware of someone's significant other, I could punch their number in, call them, make it look like it's them, and it makes it look like it's an organization or a specific person or pretty much anyone they want. They can make it look like it's the bank calling you. So you see this number come up on your phone, 1-800 blah 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 blah. You look at it and confirm on the internet. What's 1-800 555-1212? Oh, that's the Royal Bank of Canada. Now you think it's legitimate, the person you're speaking to. So again, it's one of those things where technology is always ahead for offenders. They always use the most technology they possibly can to try to trick you, to try to convince you that this is legitimate. So that comes back to that whole take 5 and challenge. So you want to challenge this. I'll call you back. I can't take this call at the moment. I'll call you right back. You hang up. When you call back, you'll find out right away that it's not legitimate. Another not so good one is the delayed disconnect. How this works. The offender calls you, they're, doesn't matter, a bank employee, and they're saying, I know this sounds like it's not legitimate, so hang up, call the number on the back of your card right away. Hang up, pick up your phone, dial the number on the back of your card. You're thinking, okay, that sounds legitimate, but they're saying you need to do it fast. We have basically seconds. However, they've managed to, when they made that initial call, they've tied up your line, and I don't have the specifics on that, but they tied up your line for a number of seconds that when you hang up and pick up your receiver, it's still technically connected. You start dialing that number, the person answers, hello, this is Steve from the bank. How can I help you? And you think, wow, okay, this is legitimate. I did call the 1-800 number on the back of my card. Problem is that original call never completely disconnected, and you end up speaking with that original caller again. So how do you combat that? You hang up the phone and you take that 5 minutes like we talk about, right? It's that whole take 5 concept. Take 5 minutes, think it through and go, okay, now I'll pick up the call. So the line is 100% disconnected. You made the call, and most times or all the time, you're going to find out that this was indeed a fraud. The tips that we share, again, are not things that are very difficult. We have a lot of power in our hands to deal with people calling with fraud. So it's very simple. Incoming messages and calls, recorded messages that don't sound legitimate, hang up. That's your number one line of defense. You just hang up. Never give your personal information out unless you've initiated the call and you're aware that you know you're calling either your bank or you're calling somewhere where you can share your personal information. If something just doesn't seem right, seems suspicious, there's most likely a good reason. We always say we rely on our gut or our basic instincts. There's a reason for that, is because pretty much 90% of the time we're correct in our assumptions. And then emails, texts, social media, unsolicited emails. So you're getting emails all of a sudden from the bank that you never signed up for, or things that they're telling you they're going to send you. Don't click on the links. There's even the links where it says unsubscribe, I don't want this. If something you haven't signed up for, it's easier to just delete it than click the unsubscribe. Reason I say that, once you click that unsubscribe button, they know that you've read it. So now they know that you look at your emails and that you pay attention to them, even though you've unsubscribed that one. That's fine. They'll move to the next thing. Oh, okay, you didn't like the bank one? No problem. I'll send them the one from Canadian Tire. Oh, you didn't like that one? No problem. I'll send this person the one from the CRA. And they go on and on until they finally get you to click one of the links they don't want you to click on. The reporting aspect, and this is kind of what I said at the beginning, and I'll get into statistics in a moment. You gather all the information you can. So whether that's a copy of an email, whether that's as much information as you got on the phone, you report it to your local police. The Canadian Anti-Fraud Center is a big one. There is an online link. It'll be in the next slide. Obviously, the financial institution or the payment provider you use to send the money. If it's a TD bank fraud, you want to alert your TD bank security department. You want to let them know that that's happening so that they can send out communications to their, card holders and their members to let them know what the scam's about, what the new fraud is about, and what's going on. And then if it occurred in an online dating website or something like that, you want to report it to them. So there's nothing wrong with being on an online dating website. It's just unfortunately that there's offenders that are on those sites as well, and they're looking to scam you out of your money. So you report it to them and report it that it is indeed a fraudulent account. Reporting, kind of like what I said at the beginning. So the estimate is that fewer than 5% of frauds are reported. Terrible number, unfortunately, right? I mean, fewer than 5%, and we have statistics of fraud that are so high. It unfortunately shows how much more of these programs and how much more education is necessary to reduce the numbers. We work closely with the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. We have the Serious Fraud Office, kind of like it was explained at the beginning. All these places are where you need to report these frauds. The reason I say that is because when these are reported, we can focus more on these campaigns. So if I know that these are occurring more in a certain area, in a certain city, we will ramp up our delivery of these sessions as much as possible in those areas to try to get there. Education, word of mouth, these presentations kind of thing are our biggest tools in fighting fraud. So, and I'll get into that in the next slide. So we talked about the Take 5 campaign. The second campaign out of the UK is called the Tell 2. And this is where education comes in. So if I know about this today and I tell 2 people who tell 2 people and so on and so forth, the education that's propagated there is huge, right? It's something that we wouldn't accomplish by doing 10 of these presentations. We could have this done by word of mouth 100 times faster than doing these presentations. There's a reason why this program was created this year, because fraud is high. And unfortunately, during the COVID pandemic, fraud was even worse because more people were at home to answer the phone all day long and people took advantage of that. But as we focus on taking 5 and we focus on telling 2 on these 2 campaigns, these 2 pivotal campaigns, the education out there is it's invaluable. It really just, it promotes, it helps people understand, what to look out for. It gives them those red flags, those tips, so that they know they're not the only ones. It's happening to everyone. and there's ways of combating it. Again, we end with stop, challenge, and protect. It's the take 5 method. You stop, you take a minute, think about what you're dealing with. You challenge it. So you're rejecting it, refusing, ignoring it. A challenge is as simple as hanging up the phone. That's my challenge. I stop, it took a minute. No, this does not seem legitimate. I hang up the phone. Done. The offender now is completely out. You've combated fraud in that one action. And protect yourself. So if you get to a certain point where you realize, you know what, I may have went a little bit too far. I didn't get defrauded, but I've provided some information. Will you contact the authorities, whether that's the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, your local police department, you know, and you want to make sure that you report those things so that we have accurate statistics. That is the extent of the presentation today for my end. I just want to, I guess I'll open it up to questions. I think Rayanne's going to do that.
Thank you so much for your presentation. That was great. I'm just trying to get my video back up. So we have some questions that came in, and I will try to speak loudly. My voice is a little faint. I do apologize earlier. Hopefully you can hear me better now. So there's a lot of questions, Stephen, around reporting to the police. So some people have said that they've made reports to the police, and police indicate that they're backlogged with many cases, and some people have waited over 9 months or so. So do police investigate these, or what's the best approach in terms of reporting? Or is that just the normal process that happens, unfortunately, based on the number of cases that come in?
Yeah, I mean, again, for all the people on the line, keep in mind I'm an auxiliary member, so I'm not a sworn police officer. So, but based on that question, I mean, yes, there's a huge influx of fraud reported cases. Unfortunately, there is a backlog on dealing with them. You're 100% right that there's a stack super high on the number of frauds that come in. It is highly still recommended, unfortunately, that they get reported. There are sometimes it gets reported and there's joint ventures that occur, right? That, you know, different police services will partner up and all of a sudden they take down maybe a larger call center, wherever that may be. There was an article, I think it's about 4 months now, that was in one of the papers, and you know, they did talk about that it took a long time, right? But they were gathering information in case after case after case, and next thing you know, they were able to take down a large call center in another country. And that's hundreds of people, right? Working with, you know, international police and things like that. You know, I understand the frustration and having to wait, and they do get to them. I mean, cases, they're not going to take your case and then and trash it. That's not going to happen. Unfortunately, it does take time. And you know, how can I say, these reports, you know, have to be reported. We have to know where these things are occurring and what's occurring. That way there we can adapt these presentations so that if the romance scam is no longer a huge thing, I can change this presentation and talk about another type of scam. Because I see some of the chat comments, right? The education piece is spread the word, and spread the word, that's right. So you tell two, right? That whole tell two thing. I know maybe not the answer you're looking for in terms of, you know, the timelines, but every police service will be different, unfortunately. And, you know, some of them have more resources to fight this. Like I say, the OPP's got the Serious Fraud Office, you know, the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. Everyone tries to work together as much as they can.
Right. And then there was just a couple comments about, you know, sometimes either, you know, sometimes it's our friends or families or other professionals will maybe make a comment about, you know, how could you get duped by that? Maybe just reminding people that these people are professionals, and anybody can be taken advantage of, and that nobody should feel that they did, you know, that it's their fault, because they are so convincing and they use such tactics that they're way ahead of everybody, you know, and that we do get, you know, unfortunately scammed by some of those tactics, and not to be, you know, self-blaming ourselves, I guess, is what I see some of those comments about that people have made. I don't know if you just make a comment about that.
I'm just looking at some of the Q&As here. So is there an app to report frauds? I'm not 100% certain actually if the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center has an app. I know they prefer a phone call so that they can gather the most information possible. I'm not 100% sure if there's an app though.
I know they also
What
want
about,
people to report online as well, right?
yeah,
Sometimes
online reporting is good. Yeah, for sure.
and phone.
Definitely. Scam and frauds on computers, freeze your internet until you pay. Yeah, that, I mean, cybercrime is a whole thing on its own, right? It's yeah, they freeze your internet until you pay. You're 100% right. There are people get that all the time. But by reporting it, sometimes we do have the resources that can help with that. Not in all cases, but if I think of ransomware is what they're calling it. So unfortunately, even large corporations are dealing with ransomware issues. But that comes down to the only reason that happened is because a link was clicked or something was done via email. It doesn't take much, right? So the only thing I can say, and again, is essentially protect your computer, like have the proper antivirus software, have some kind of scanning mechanism that checks your system or that gives you pop-ups if something is coming through your system that's not supposed to be there. Again, the offenders unfortunately are always a step ahead. As much as possible, try to get as much up to date as you can. But yeah, and that's right, strong passwords for sure. Definitely not passwords like your last name with a 1 at the end or something like that. These are things we see all the time. Another question was, do you have OPP colleagues can do this in French? Yes, we do. Myself being one of them, actually. And we do have auxiliary members as well that have the French presentation. We did translate this because we do have a lot of frauds in the Hawkesbury area. So definitely, if there was a requirement for French, please reach out and we'll definitely provide a French presentation. No problem at all.
That's great to know, Steve. I know we've had requests for that. So I will follow up after this webinar and book a session for the Francophone older adults that want to take
Perfect.
part in this presentation. So thank you so much for that question, Blondine, because we will book that session.
Excellent.
Any other questions that come up? I'm just looking at the Q&A. Don't see any. There's a lot of your comments just in terms of maybe situations that people have come across in terms of being experiencing fraud. The other thing, I guess the question is, if you're knowing a person who's been a victim of fraud, of how to support that individual. I don't know if you have any sort of recommendations in regards to that, because I know that in the past I've had people call talking about family members and they're, almost suicidal or depression after they become a victim of that. So do you or the anti-fraud programs support individuals who become victims of fraud?
That I'm not 100% sure of. I mean, the only way I could respond to that one would be, like we said at the beginning, right? Lean on your family members and your close colleagues. Like have we'll call it your support system, which is typically your family members in a lot of cases. And it's 100% true, right? You do feel you feel really, it's a huge shame if you get kind of scammed in these things. But you have to realize, the offenders out there are just smarter and smarter, and they just do things every day that's it's hard to keep up with the latest scams. It's definitely hard to keep up with the latest scams. I just saw something there. Would you recommend using a safe word as a strategy? I mean, that's definitely a good thing, right? If you do have a loved one going overseas, or if they're not going overseas, or they're doing some kind of a trip, a safe word is a good thing for sure. Which is why we say, ask, what did I get you for your birthday? Or when's the last time I saw you? Or what's the color of the rug in my apartment? Or whatever the case may be, right? Something, again, most times those people are going to be dismissive. They're not going to want to answer. They'll be like, I don't have time for this. I'm in jail. Just answer a simple question and I'll send you all the money you need to get out. What color's my car? It's blue. No, it's not. It's red. You know, so there's only so many chances. I mean, you have to use that intuition, right? So
There was a
overseas
question about
control.
using your phone service through your internet. Does that put someone at greater danger or at risk if they're using the computer systems?
I would say no. I mean, it's no different than anything else. Local businesses, or almost all businesses, use a service over the internet, which is called voice over IP. It's essentially a phone over the internet. So um, it's there's no different. Same thing. You just hang up. You just hang up the call.
There was a question here. Have you heard of the scam, how people's phone rings and the number states it's from Toronto, although it hangs up once it is answered?
Um, that it hangs up once it's answered. No, usually it's not that it's hung up. It's that it has like a delay on it until the voice comes on. In a lot of cases, I don't know about the one that just hangs up.
No, I don't know that
Um,
one either.
but again, this number states is from Toronto. Like I say, that's the whole spoofing thing. So you can have, I can state that I'm from anywhere. And these are simple apps that are unfortunately used on your iPhone or your Android phone. Like I can download an app and I can make it look like I'm whoever I need to be for certain calls. It's unfortunate that the technology exists and it's so readily available, but that's why, you have to protect yourself at all costs on these things.
Mhm.
Just look in here.
I think that's why it's so important to even check the Anti-Fraud Center website on a regular basis, because they do post all the newest frauds that are coming out. Also social media, for those who are on Facebook or Twitter. I know that I think it's with the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, as well as the other, OPP and other provincial partners that are involved in financial security for individuals. Ontario Securities Commission, many others, are even ourselves, that are working together to do more campaigns around getting people aware of what the current issues or trends, or getting people aware of prevention tips. So there's many different things that happen throughout, like in March, is Fraud Prevention Month. So there's lots of, there's Twitter chats, there's lots of conversations going on a regular basis about how you can prevent yourselves from becoming a victim. So if you're on social media, follow some of those organizations, because they're constantly putting out new tips. The mule, as you talked about, Steve, about being a mule. Many people don't
Yeah.
recognize that they're even in the midst of doing that. So there was a campaign that was recently done on that. So just keeping apprised. It's hard to keep up to everything, because as Stephen indicated, there's always something new that before the police can even think of it, they've already come up with something. So, if it's hard for those who are, trying to combat this, you can imagine us as general citizens just not knowing what's new and everything. So, yeah, that would be a good tip as well.
One of the things I just thought of that I hadn't mentioned is, so when it comes to electronic e-transfers, so when you do send money by electronic e-transfer, in some cases, one of the banks that I use has kind of I think it's a 30-minute buffer. So if I click that I want to send someone some money, in 30 minutes, it takes 30 minutes for that e-transfer to actually happen. So if I was getting scammed and I had decided, okay, I'm going to send you $500 on my e-transfer, and then I'm thinking, my God, like, something doesn't seem right. I have that buffer to go in and cancel that transfer. I'm not sure about every bank. I see that someone said the 30-minute buffer, but I know there's some banks that do that. It may be worth asking your individual banks, right? And sometimes check or get in contact with your bank. If you sent money, I know someone specifically who had done that, sent money through a bank deposit. Unfortunately, went into the branch, took money out of their account, deposited into someone else's account, which unfortunately was someone that he thought was someone else, and then immediately realized, geez, there's something wrong. Immediately got on the phone, called their bank manager, and and got that reversed. So sometimes there's abilities for banks to work with you. It's just that you can't wait like for 3 days and then come back, and ask them to reverse it, because chances are that money's long been withdrawn and put somewhere where they can't get to it.
Just in speaking of, delays and things, I know, what's your recommendation if, the scammers might say, well, just e-transfer me the money, or, there's a lot of scams that might happen online, where you might buy something. So I know it's a little bit off from that, but it's still a scam if someone is, wanting something right away and they say, well, just e-transfer it to me. Is that a safe way for people to be, I mean, obviously it's legit because bankings are using that.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, is that a tactic that scammers sometimes use as well as Western Union and all these other things that people used to use in terms of
Yeah,
sending
I would
money?
say they use every tactic they have that they can use they have at their disposal, right?
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean, you have to be mindful of pretty much everything out there. I mean, even comes down to when you buy things online, the person says, okay, you transfer me the money. Well, that's fine, but sometimes it's like, well, I'll give you, if it's a $500 item, I'll send you $100 and I'll meet you at this location or a safe spot, safe trade zone. Um, but a lot of times, it's a gamble, right? It's buying online is, I mean, I see it all the time, even in personal side. It's, you go to buy something and the person starts, or you try to sell something and the person starts asking you a bunch of questions. Oh, I'll pay you more than you're selling it for.
Yeah.
You automatically should know that's a scam. Nobody wants to pay you more for your item. They always want to pay you less. There's
Right.
nobody who wants to pay you more for what you're trying to sell. Um, there's scams for contract work. Yeah, I mean, there's scams for everything. There's it's scams for everything. There's one right now with shipping containers. So
Mm,
with people are buying sea cans or shipping containers for storage units. Oh, they're saying, oh, you got to send me half the money because it's a $6,000 container. People are sending the 3,000. Next thing you know, the other person's just gone. So
yeah.
yeah, these things happen.
I
There's
put up,
scams for everything out there. You just have to be mindful and you have to think about it.
right. I just put
Easier
up a,
said than done at times.
yeah,
Sorry, Ann.
that's so true. Because we're acting quick, right? This is a great deal. I got to act now because someone else is
That's
waiting,
right.
right? Um, so I did put up a couple other resources, and this was also in a communication that went out to promote the webinar. But here's some of the phone numbers that people can call, as well as these are links. So I will be put these on the website as well for people to access. But there is a little black book of scams that's available for people as well. That's been around for many, many years, and it talks about just some basic tips. The RCMP also has a seniors guidebook for safety and security that provides some tips as well. And our website, I've been putting some things in the chat box today. You can go on our website and under fact sheets. If you go under financial abuse, you'll see some tools that people can download for around protection and tips on frauds and scams and financial abuse issues. So have a look there. There are lots of resources available. We also have a provincial directory that people can look up from different provincial services and organizations if they're looking for different agencies for support. And this is just a sample of some of the resources that I just mentioned. And they are available in multiple languages. If you notice here, if you just click on the different languages, it will download and the language that's been translated into. So again, our website, I will post the webinar from today, hopefully maybe this afternoon. Time allows to download that and make it available for people to access. People can call the senior safety line, which is managed by the Assaulted Women's Helpline, for information and referral if they have an issue that they would like to address in terms of getting some further support as well. And I'm not sure, we didn't talk about this, Stephen, but people can also call the credit Equifax or
Yep, absolutely.
TransUnions once a year to get a free credit check, because
That's right.
sometimes
Yep.
you don't know about your identity theft. So maybe you could just speak to that a couple seconds before we wrap up.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you can definitely call. I mean, I actually have that service. I subscribe to that service myself, just for peace of mind, right? Um, And you can see that if there's been a financial inquiry, if there's been a request, if there's been a request to borrow money, if there's been even something just using your name or your social insurance number or your email address, you can get different reporting. Some of that's not free, obviously. Some of them are subscription based, but the very basic credit reports are available to you, like Rayanne said, once a year. In some cases, in my bank, it's available once a month, so I can see my credit score once a month. That's what Scotiabank. It's part of my. I'm not sure if it's part of my package. It just shows up there on my app, so I'm able to see a credit score every month, see if it went up, see if it went down, and if you all of a sudden realize that your scores dropped considerably and you haven't borrowed any money or you haven't owed any money, that's obviously a red flag there. But these services are available. They're not advertised because I mean they want you to pay for them as much as possible, these companies, but they are available once a year for you.
Great. Just a reminder, after we conclude the webinar today, if you don't mind just doing the quick survey at the end, we really would appreciate your feedback and any topics that you would like addressed. And as we mentioned, we will try to organize a Francophone session of this presentation as well for our stakeholders. And here's my contact information for those who are interested and want to reach out. You can call or by email go on our website and get further information. We also have social media on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. We're active on a regular basis as well. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming today. We appreciate that. Thank you so much, Steven and our interpreters. And thank you so much for everybody today for joining us for a very informative session, and spread the word to your neighbors, friends, and families so they too don't become a victim of fraud or scam. Thank you.